I think the airstrike on Friday evening, which killed Hassan Nasrallah, the Hezbollah leader, was something of a wake up call for the city, for the country. I was here in my apartment and I heard it. It was about 3 miles away, the blast site, and it shook my windows, shook the house, sort of jolted me. And since then, even on Beirut, the airstrikes are becoming pretty relentless. Israel has continued to target senior Hezbollah figures in the capital, mainly in the Dahiyeh, which are these southern suburbs where traditionally Hezbollah has a lot of support. But I think significantly last night we saw an Israeli airstrike on this new area of town. It's known as the Kola roundabout. It's a key interchange where lots of people take buses and taxis there across the country. Populated by a lot of migrant workers, all from the Philippines, Sri Lanka, India. And we saw an Israeli strike on a residential building there, which is believed to have killed 3 Palestinian members of a militant group. So there are signs that this war is expanding out of the south.
Let's take a look at the international news. And Israel appeared to be gearing up last night for a ground invasion of Lebanon. Hundreds of tanks have massed near its northern border. Soldiers were seen making final preparations to vehicles as plumes of smoke rose from wildfires started from Hezbollah rockets. Israel's continuing airstrikes may have already forced as many as 1 million people from their homes across Lebanon. That was the analysis from the country's prime minister yesterday. And clearly watching this from the sidelines, the United States issuing a last-minute appeal to both sides for restraint. Biden warning the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu that war would not return 60,000 displaced Israelis to their homes. Let's find out more. Gareth Browne is a journalist in Beirut. Gareth, good morning.
Morning, Rosie. Thanks for having me on.
Tell us, what do you know of what's happening at the border right now?
Well, I mean, all the indications do point towards an Israeli ground invasion. I think is Israel, preparing, getting ready to send troops across the border. Almost certainly is actually going to do that. That's another question. It could be a bluff. It could be, part of its wider strategy to keep the pressure on Hezbollah. I mean, I think the group has, had its military and political leadership decimated in about 2 weeks. And whether a ground invasion is the next part of this big operation sort of remains to be seen. I think the mood in Beirut is pretty tense. People are worried and they're convinced that things are going to get worse before they get better. Does that mean we're going to see, Israeli soldiers rolling into Beirut like in 1982? Perhaps not. But it's certainly an option. I think the likelihood of an Israeli ground invasion grows, with each day.
And just tell us what the experience has been like over the weekend ever since those strikes on Friday. I mean, there's been continuing airstrikes pretty much Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah, I think the airstrike on Friday evening, which killed Hassan Nasrallah, the Hezbollah leader, was something of a wake up call for the city, for the country. I was here in my apartment and I heard it. It was about 3 miles away, the blast site, and it shook my windows, shook the house, sort of jolted me. And since then, even on Beirut, the airstrikes are becoming pretty relentless. Israel has continued to target senior Hezbollah figures in the capital, mainly in the Dahiyeh, which are these southern suburbs where traditionally Hezbollah has a lot of support. But I think significantly last night we saw an Israeli airstrike on this new area of town. It's known as the Kola roundabout. It's a key interchange where lots of people take buses and taxis there across the country. Populated by a lot of migrant workers, all from the Philippines, Sri Lanka, India. And we saw an Israeli strike on a residential building there, which is believed to have killed 3 Palestinian members of a militant group. So there are signs that this war is expanding out of the south and out of the southern suburbs of Beirut. We've also seen, some pretty horrendous incidents in Saida, a city in the south, where more than 20 people were killed in a strike the day before yesterday. So there are signs that this conflict is going in all the wrong directions.
How you sort of mentioned it there, Gareth, but how damaged are Hezbollah? Because I guess one of the other concerns and fears is that there will be a kind of anxious wait to see how the group decides to respond.
I mean, nobody knows. I think that's been one of Hezbollah's strengths over the years, and one of their presumed strengths was their discipline, their secrecy, So we only really have glimmers of what their military strength was before this conflict, and now, amid the chaos of war, it's even harder to know. I think it's safe to say they have taken a big hit. I think the real damage to the group has been, to their elite capability, if you like, their elite ground forces, the Radwan Brigade in the south. Their longer missiles, for sure, they've been weakened. And I think, even supporters of the group are surprised that they haven't mounted quite a fierce response to everything that Israel has done in the last 2 weeks already. Now, are we waiting? Are we going to see that response? Or, is this a time where the organization, the group is taking stock? It obviously needs to decide on a new leader, new leadership. So perhaps now is not the perfect time for a big response to everything that's happened over the last 2 weeks. The fact is, we just don't know. But, they've got a lot of members here. They've got a lot of fighters. They've got a lot of popular support. And I think, look, don't forget, Hezbollah was born out of the Israeli occupation of South Lebanon in the 1980s. And if we're about to see a new Israeli occupation, Israeli invasion of Lebanon, South Lebanon, or parts of it, whether that resistance comes from Lebanon, there will be people in Lebanon who, whether that resistance comes from Hezbollah or a different group, there will be plenty of people in Lebanon who won't accept it and will choose to fight it.
Yeah. And then, the question is, can you use military force to crush Hezbollah? And if you do, what then comes up in its wake? I mean, all these things we don't have the answers to. The Iranian foreign minister has vowed revenge for the death of Nasrallah. So we wait, an anxious, desperate wait for residents as well. Gareth, thank you so much. Gareth Browne, journalist in Beirut, bringing us up to speed there. More on this, of course, on Times Radio Breakfast.